Hi guys, welcome to today's video. And in today's video we'll be making a dress that you saw on the thumbnail. So for this I'll be using my drafting paper, and I already have my measurements on a book. So I'm not going to be sewing this dress, but I'm just going to be cutting the pattern on paper, just so that if you want to make the dress, you can use this as a guide towards making your own dress. So I have now split my paper into two because I'll be using the second side for the back pattern. So let's go on to first take out our measurement on the front pattern. So as you said, I'm going to be using my measurement on this paper to take out the front pattern. Now the first thing I'm going to do, as usual, is take out my shoulder measurement, which is my shoulder divided by 2. On this shoulder point, as usual, I'm going to measure out the chest line, and I'm going to add 1 inch to the chest line, making 9 inches. So my chest line is 8 inches, but I'm going to add in 1 inch, making it 9 inch, and this is what I have. Now on this point also, I'm going to come down by the 1 inch, which is here, and as usual, let us take out the regular 3, which we usually use for our neckline. Now let us link these lines together. And so this is what we have. And so I'm going to go on to measure my chest line, bust line, on under bust line, waistline, and all of that. So now I'll go on to make straight lines on this measurement, or on these markings. So we're going to go on to label out these lines just so that they are clear. So guys, as you can see, these are the markings that we made. This is the chest line, this is the round bust, this is the under bust, the waistline, and this is the hip line, just as you can see it. Now as usual, we'll come to work on our shoulder points just before we go to the rest of this. So like the normal thing that we do, we go half on this shoulder measurement point, and then we go in by a ½ inch. So here we have 8, we come in by this 4 here, and then come in by this half. Now then we'll join these lines together to touch as usual. So this is what we have for our shoulder. Let's just randomly take out a neckline, even if we're not going to be cutting it out. So this is just to serve as a guide for what we are going to be working with. So this is what we have for the neckline. Now the next thing we're going to do is to mark out each point on the body circumference, and we're going to achieve this by, when we take our measurement, we divide it by 4. Now I have marked out my body circumference for the up bust, the round of my bust, my under bust, and for my waistline. Now for the hip line part of this, we're going to exaggerate the hip line measurement. So for the rest of these ones, I used my exact body measurement, but for this hip line part, we're going to be exaggerating the measurement because it is not fitted at the waist, at the hip line. When I divide my hip line into 4, I'm going to have 10.5. But for this, I'm going to add 1 inch just so that I can exaggerate the measurement, and this is what I'm going to have. This is where it is going to be, because it is not fitted and it is not resting on the hip line. So guys, now that we have marked out all of these points, we are going to go on to join them together, and this is what we are going to have. So we're going to have something like this at the waist part of this dress, but then again, if you notice, the waist part is not very straight. So we're going to come up by 1 inch here on the bottom of this gown, and we're going to connect it to the middle. We're going to have it looking like this. So now guys, first thing we're going to do is we're going to trim this out the way it is, then we'll come back to work on the top. So now we come back to work on the top. Now the first thing for this dress that we're going to do is we're going to mark the depth of the neck side of this dress. As you can see, guys, you notice that the neckline for this dress was a square neckline, just straight to up to where the armhole is. So for this, we're going to be using our chest line measurement, and we're going to come down by 8. Let's use 8.5 inches. So let's mark it out from the middle on the 8.5 line, just like this, and then let's make it a straight line. So we're going to also use 8.5 in here also, like this. Now we're going to make a straight line. On this shoulder part, we're going to come in by 3.5 inch from the end of the shoulder point, which is this point, just like this. And on this chest line part, we're also going to come in by 2 inches. This is what we're going to have. Now we're going to connect this to this point, just like this. So guys, you can already see that we have our yoke taking form on this dress now. So now that we've cut our yoke part, we're just going to label it yoke, and then we're also going to trim out the piece. So this is our front yoke. Let's put an F in front of it. So this is our yoke. Now we're going to go on to trim this out. So let's just, but before we trim this out, if you also notice on the bust point of this dress, or on the round bust point of this dress, there was a dart on this side of the dress. Now you need your nipple to nipple measurement, which on my own is going to be 4 inches, but I'm not using my exact 4. I'm going to extend it by 1 more inch into it, and this is going to be the 5 point here, which is what we have. Now on this round bust line, just as we mentioned, or measured rather, we're going to come in by 1/2 inch on both sides, just so that it can lap at this top. You don't want it just like when you bend, you don't want your chest to just show in this. So we are going to put a dart on this side just to make it lap on the top side of this. So this is where our dart is going to be. So now guys, we'll go on to trim this out. So guys, this is what we have for our darts, and this is what our dress is currently looking like. You can already see that it is taking shape. At this point, your dress is literally even halfway ready from this. So guys, this is what it is going to look like on when you hold your dart down. You can already see that the top is no longer as straight as it was initially. It has now folded, meaning that this part is going to fold more towards your boob side, or towards your body, basically. So this is what we have. Now we're going to use the same pattern to cut out for the back. Now for the back pattern, we have placed the front on the back, and this is what we have. So we are going to go on to make the same draftings of this, or if we're not quite sure what to do, we're just going to tape all of this down and basically just cut out the same pattern for the back, because it's the same thing. But as usual, one thing we do is we always leave gap for the zipper allowance at the back of this, and for this one we're using 1 inch at the back part of this. Now one thing we're going to do is we're going to come to the waistline of this dress, and we're going to cinch it in by 1 inch. So we're going to take out 1 inch on this point, which is this, just so that it can lap better on the waistline of this dress. From here we're going to blend it out into the top, just like this. So guys, we'll go on to mark out this point, because this is where our zipper allowance starts from. And then we're just going to do the same for this bottom part, just like this. And so this is what we have for our zipper here, and we are going to trim it out. So we're going to trim this out. Now we're going to go on to just apply tapes on, because just apply tapes around this dress here, just so we can cut out the back pattern. This is what we have. As you can see, it's already held down. Now we're going to go on to trim. So guys, on my own pattern, the back of my dress is not as much as the front, just as you can see from this difference at the bottom, but please make sure that yours is. And now we're back here. So for this part here, this is on the front side. This is where our front pattern started from, but for the back pattern we're going to go down by 1 inch, just so that we can flatter the back a bit more and just make it more relaxed at the back. So this is our 1 inch here, and we're going to ensure to blend this out just so that it meets on the begin this chest line part here, which is the beginning of where this yoke meets the chest line. As you can see, my sellotape did not get to this point because I was going to take this part out. So this is the point where we have. Now we'll go on to relax it into the back pattern. So guys, this is what we'll be having for the back pattern, as you can see. Now we're going to trim this. So now let's just label it back yoke, or B yoke, like the front one. So this is our front yoke and this is our back yoke. And then now, after we've done this, we're going to trim out for the zipper allowance. So okay, this is what we are going to have for our zip allowance. Now please go on to nudge the top of the zipper allowance, just so that on your fabric you also know where your zipper is supposed to start from. So just as you can see, this is the nudge, and this is what we have for this dress. Now please don't also forget to trim the bottom of your dress like we did for the front. And so our gown is almost ready. So these are our patterns. Now we'll go on to set this aside and we'll cut the sleeve for this dress. So guys, now we want to cut out the sleeve for this dress, and it's just like the basic sleeve pattern. So if you've seen my video on how to cut out a basic sleeve, I'm going to leave it in the description box, and also as a link to this video. But if you have not yet seen it, I'm just still going to cut out a basic sleeve just so that you can follow on this one. For this, I'm going to be using this paper. So as you can see, I cut this out into two. I'm just going to draft out one piece of the sleeve just so that you have an understanding of how we're cutting the sleeve. So this is what I'm going to be using, and for this, the first thing I'm going to do basically is to mark out the armhole of my sleeve. So guys, in the cutting of this, the first thing we want to do is to come down by 5 inches on this point here, which is going to be our armpit area. So we're going to come down by 5 inches on this point here, and so from this point to this edge we're slanting it by 10. Now this 10 basically is when you measure your the round of your armhole in a way that is comfortable for you. When you divide it into two, what you have is what you're going to be slanting by. So I'm using 10 inches for my own. So from this 5 here, I'm going to be slanting by 10 inches. So I'm going to make my marking on this point, which is going to be here. To make the curve on the armhole area, instead of using a 5 inch, I'm going to be using a 5.5 to mark for the upper part, and the 4.5 is going to be for the lower part. So from here I'm just going to make a slanted straight line, and then since I've marked this point, I'm going to use this point as my midpoint and not the 5, just so that it is more comfortable for my arm. And so this here is what we have. Now on this point we're going to go on to make our curves. So guys, we are currently having something like this. So now we're going to go on to mark out this point here using the round of our sleeve. So guys, now on this also we are going to go on to make markings just like we did for our body. We're going to do the same markings on this for the arm. Now to know how to do this, you can measure from your armhole to your elbow and then go up by 1 inch from your elbow, just to get the measurement on that point, just for it to be comfortable around that point of your arm. Then you can measure up to your 3/4 length and then take a full length, then take the round of all of these measurements. Now for this point here, I'm going to take out my measurements for the arm to the elbow side, right? Then for a 3/4 measurement, right, for a full sleeve, and for the extra that should get to this point on the hand. Now in all of this here, we can also still go on to this point and make the same measurement, just so that we have our measurements sitting on the exact lines that we want them to be on. Point here, I'm going to take my measurement from the armhole to the elbow and then divide my measurement by 2. Whatever I have, I'm going to mark it out here. And then we're going to do the same for the remaining part of your sleeve. And then we can just make this bottom part straight here. Now we'll go on to join what we have. Just going to go on to trim this out, but when you're trimming yours on your actual fabric, please don't forget to include your sleeve allowance. Even if you be cutting it out on lace, which may be a flexible material, but please also include your sewing allowance. So now this is what we have for our sleeve. Able to open up the down just like we have. We're going to come up on this sleeve point by much as we need. So on the sleeve, it opened up from like this point here on the sleeve. So we're going to make that measurement from this point on the paper, which should be around here, up to like this point, which is the end of what we need. So we're going to come up by that point and make a marking. So this is what we're going to do. Now let's use 8 inches as the point to which this came out by, or let's make it 7 inches instead, so it doesn't look too way longer than it should be. Now we're going to make a straight line on this 7 inch towards the end, which is going to be here, but it's not going to extend to this point. Then we are going to cut it straight, just like this, just so we do not use extra paper, guys. Now we're going to go on to cut this out. So guys, when we're cutting this, please ensure that you don't separate it out completely, just enough for what you need, but not completely. And so this is what we have. Now we're just going to bend this over here just like this, just so that we can cut out the what we need without having to use extra paper. Now we're going to tape it down there. So we're going to open it up actually by how wide you want it to be, and this is just what we need. So guys, this paper is not the exact length of a sleeve, but it is just enough to show that this is actually what we need, and this is how much we need our sleeve to be. This is how our sleeve is supposed to be. So you're going to also place this on your lace and cut this out, and you're going to cut its joints just so that you can have a seamless sewing. So guys, thank you for watching this video, and I hope you learned a thing or two. I hope you also like this video, and I hope you return to also watch my other videos. Thank you very much. Please don't forget to subscribe, to like this, to also share this video, and please go on to leave a comment if you have any questions or anything, and I'll ensure to actually respond to your questions. So guys, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.